Aloha, and thank you for watching. I'm Representative George Fontaine, and you're watching The Fontaine Factor. This evening we have a special edition of The Fontaine Factor. We are going to be talking to some lead organizations on volunteering in Hawaii, how we can do good during this holiday season to help our brothers and sisters out there in the community in need. So I would like to introduce my guest this evening. To my immediate left is a well-known figure here in Hawaii, is Kim Janala. She is the president, professional officer of Aloha United Way.
Oh,
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. Nice to be here.
And then sitting next to her left is Major Edward Hill. He's the division commander of the Salvation Army Hawaiian and Pacific Islands Division. So both of you, welcome. Thank you so much for the honor of being here on my show. I'm so thrilled to have both of you here as guests.
Oh, thanks.
As I lead it off on my show, the thing that we're looking at today is trying to allow people during this season to really get involved in helping people. With the economy being so poor, a lot of people are out of work, and folks want to know, even if they don't have money, how they can lend a hand during this season and really get into the spirit of giving. And that's the reason why I wanted both of you folks on. So before we get into the actual giving and volunteering part, perhaps each of you could give us a little background and history of your organization. Kim, why don't you start us off?
Well, Aloha United Way has been around in Hawaii for over 90 years. We are the only nonprofit in the state that's doing grassroots fundraising for the greatest needs of the whole community. So we're really proud of that. We serve several of our partner agencies, of which Salvation Army is one of them. And basically, our mission is to increase the overall spirit of giving in the community, to especially get those people who never thought that they had enough money to make a difference, but who could maybe part with $5 or $10 a paycheck and then find out at the end of the year that they were able to contribute a significant amount to a charity. We really see a lot of value in us being there for our charities in that way too.
Major?
Salvation Army came to Hawaii in 1894. There was a group of church members at the Central Union Church who were concerned about the very poor conditions that were taking place in Chinatown. There was an outbreak of the bubonic plague. They needed help, and they knew about the Salvation Army from the mainland. And so they wrote a letter to the Salvation Army on the mainland and said, look, if you'll send the Salvation Army to help in Chinatown, we'll fund their work for a certain amount of time. So the Salvation Army responded in 1894, and we've stuck around ever since and expanded our programs and services throughout the state.
Now, I know a lot of people might be curious as to exactly what is the Salvation Army? We hear stories, we see these guys in uniform.
Right.
At the holiday seasons, we see the person out there with the bell and the pot.
Right.
How did the organization start, and how did it get that military aspect of majors and captains and all of that?
Right. In 1865, William Booth was a Methodist minister in England, and he wanted to reach out to the disenfranchised of those in London and so forth that were suffering from some of the ravages of the Industrial Revolution. Overpopulation, poverty, prostitution, alcoholism, and so forth. And he came across a group of street evangelists who were part of a group called the Christian Mission, and he joined that group, and that group evolved over time into the Salvation Army. And William Booth believed that the Salvation Army was kind of the tip of the spear in fighting a spiritual battle against the manifestations of sin, which in his mind were these things like poverty and alcoholism and exploitation of women and children. So the Army took on a military model because of this idea of being in spiritual warfare. And so the Salvation Army has maintained that model, and we've become very recognizable by our uniforms, which we wear as a symbol of our availability to be of service and also our Christian witness. One of the mottos of the Salvation Army is heart to God, hand to man. The idea we have a spiritual experience with our relationship with Jesus Christ, and that motivates us to reach out with love and compassion to others. Heart to God, hand to man. And that continues to be really the rallying cry for the Salvation Army even today.
Beautiful. Now, they're located in all of the islands? Do you have outposts, or what do you call them, outposts? Or
well, we have lots of different kinds of programs. And, churches, we have social services, we do drug and alcohol rehab, we have a camp, senior living facilities, adult daycare, and so forth. And we're located on the Big Island, Maui, Kauai, of course, Oahu, and we also have a presence in Molokai. So the Army is pretty much throughout the major islands of Hawaii.
Now, Kim, maybe you could discuss maybe some of the specific organizations that you folks help. I know one of them, I think, is IHS.
Yeah, there are dozens of them. And IHS, for example, we help them not only in fundraising for them, but also we do community activities to support them as well. One of the things that we did last year around this time was a holiday party for the patrons and the people staying at IHS. So we actually have 94 partner agencies that are funded and funded well by United Way. And then we also have hundreds of other community agencies of which our donors can support or designate them as a recipient of their dollars. So the numbers are, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Food Bank, everyone that you would, Red Cross, Salvation Army, all of the charities that would come to mind for you pretty much are on our list of charities we support.
What are some of the specific ones, though, that are in desperate need during this holiday season? I know that you have dozens of them, and I know it's hard to maybe pick out a few of them, but I'd like to find out if there's some that where funding has really been cut back, either from what they've received from the state, and they provide a real necessary mission in the community.
I would say that all charities are more desperate now than they've been in a long time, for the most part. Maybe Major Hill could speak to that as well. A couple of things have happened in the big picture, and that is that there was a period about 15, 20 years ago when the government said, okay, these health and human services need to be there, but we recognize we're not good at providing it, so we want charities to do it, and we'll fund you 80% of what you need to operate if you provide that service, and then the other 20% you fundraise. Just in the last 2 years or so, many of these charities have had that 80% pooled that used to come from government, state, or federal funding for them. So really, there are many across the board that are struggling. It would be hard for me to tell you who's really hurting the worst because they're all in need right now. I know that one that comes to mind that has approached me recently is the Meth Project, that's done so much great work with helping, and they've had really measurable results in their fight against ice addiction and ice usage in the state, and they've seen a huge amount of their funding go away in the last year too. So, but I'm sure that Major Hill could speak to Salvation Army's needs as well.
Well, the Salvation Army has suffered quite a bit the last 2 or 3 years because of cuts in some of our government contracts. The Salvation Army runs several large institutions on Oahu and also on the Big Island, and those programs reach out to runaway children, runaway teenagers, drug and alcohol addiction, and so forth. And because of the state's own difficulties, they've had to cut back about 20%. For us, that's been close to about $2 million a year less funding per year for some of those essential programs.
Wow.
And so we've had to adjust quickly. Unfortunately, we've had to curtail some programs and try to be more creative in how we raise funds to help support these important programs. It's a challenging environment, and we just need to do better, and we need more help in carrying forward our mission.
Well, I think a question for both of you is, the viewers who are watching tonight, they may have some time on their hands because maybe they're unemployed and looking for something to do. They really can't give money, but they'd like to give time. How are some ways that one could do that? I mean, if one had the time, or if they were retired and they wanted to lend a hand, maybe they're not, physically like, a buff guy or a gal, but maybe elderly perhaps too. Is there typical types of things that you can do, that these people could do to get involved in?
Well, the Salvation Army is very grateful for volunteers that help us carry out our mission. In fact, we refer to that group as the Army behind the Army. And we use thousands of volunteers throughout the year in Hawaii, and certainly tens of thousands throughout the mainland. People can help us by calling the local Salvation Army and finding out what local needs are. These may include work projects. They might include helping at a soup kitchen, maybe helping supervise children. It could be in helping sort canned goods, help us collect toys at Christmas. Standing at the Red Kettle is another way that people help us raise money. But there's lots and lots of ways for people to become involved. And the best way is simply call the local Salvation Army, make themselves available, and we'll take it from there.
And they don't have to join a particular church or be Christian or anything like that to be involved? And you welcome any kind of volunteers, or do they have to have some fundamental religious background?
No, the Salvation Army is anxious to work with people who just want to be of service.
Okay.
And so we We do carry out our programs in the name of Jesus Christ, but we do so without discrimination. That's part of our mission statement. And so we welcome people who just want to stand shoulder to shoulder with the Salvation Army and other organizations that do the right thing in the community. So we welcome their involvement.
Kim, how about you?
As far as Aloha United Way, very similar to the Salvation Army, we actually are grateful for the support of hundreds of volunteers throughout the year that help us carry out our workplace campaigns and help us also to work with our charities and that sort of thing at a real administrative level. In addition to that, if you go to our website at auw.org, you'll see a Volunteer Hawaii tab, and that is such a fantastic thing because you can click on that tab and that Volunteer Hawaii program will link you to one of literally thousands of volunteer opportunities. It allows you to look and search based on what you would like. I want to work with kids. I want to work with seniors. We have hundreds and hundreds of nonprofits that have provided their volunteer needs on that Volunteer Hawaii program. And then we actually have a person on staff that you can call and can even help you refine your decision making on that. So lots of opportunities, and we always get a lot of requests around the holidays, but that program will allow you to specifically look for something that is what you think your talent is that you want to match up to a charity. So
Terrific. Folks, if you're just joining us right now, you're watching the Fontaine Factor, and I have two very special guests joining me this evening. We have Kim Janala from Aloha United Way, who's the CEO, or I guess, or president of that organization now, and Mr. Major Edward Hill, who is with the Salvation Army. And we're talking about holiday giving. This is a season about Christmas and giving presents, but it's also a time of also giving thanks and reaching out to our family, our friends, our neighbors, our brothers and sisters who are not so fortunate, and ways that you can get involved and really experience the true holiday spirit this holiday, and get out there and be able to give us some of your time, maybe some of your treasure, some of it, maybe even your talents, if you have specific talents that would be beneficial to these organizations. And we're trying to specifically look at organizations that are helping people here locally, where dollars that you give, or time that you spend, will benefit people here in Hawaii directly. And that's the focus of our show. So again, thank you for joining us this evening. You know, the issue with like a large organization like Aloha United Way, and I think you kind of touched upon it in the very beginning, where you said, you can give to specific groups. And some people may not necessarily be comfortable with supporting one particular organization that would maybe be involved with one group that they just don't have any interest in helping to support. So can people do that? Can they? So how would that process be when they fill out the donor card? What would happen?
There are several ways that you can direct your gift, and we want to give you the power to send that money wherever you want it to go. One of the ways is that you can just check off, either on your donor form or if you go online to donate, you can just check off, I want to donate to the greatest needs of the community, and you allow Aloha United Way to assess those needs. We have teams of volunteers that are out there doing research and all of that. So that's one option. The next option that you can do is you can say, I want to designate to a specific charity of my choice. And we have long lists of donors on our website, and also when you participate in a workplace giving campaign, you get those lists. So you can say, I want to give to Salvation Army, and you can designate your gift specifically to that charity if you want. The third way of giving is you can say, I want to designate to a specific area of need in the community, and we have 5 of those. You can choose homelessness, the fight against crime and drugs, financial stability, which is helping to keep people off the streets, emergency services. You can choose one of those impact areas and just designate your money to that area if you choose. So we really give at least 3 different giving options, and allow you to designate specifically any amount to any charity that you want to give.
Is that pretty much the same with Salvation Army, or is it more of just a collective and then you guys make the decision?
It's pretty much the same approach. We know that some people have a passion for the homeless, or the passion for youth ministry, or passion for those that may be seniors and so forth. So if people want to specify their donation for a particular cause, the Salvation Army is very happy to accommodate that request.
Okay. What kinds of things, activities that these particular organizations that you folks see are having the greatest impact, like from your standpoint, from Aloha United Way, and how can people? I think the thing is, when people give money to an organization, they want to feel like they've really done something.
Yeah.
You know, so how do you folks address that?
So what we do, and we'll be doing it even more in the future going forward at Aloha United Way, is we take a look at a very specific need in the community. Like, let's say early childhood education, which is one of our 5 impact areas. We take a look at the specific need. The real deficit in that area is early screening for hearing, vision, and developmental disorders in kids. So rather than looking at one charity that's addressing that and how do we support that charity, we try to collaborate all the charities that are working in those areas and bring them together and say, if you set out a goal for a program, say this past year we screened 4,200 children. So if you all 3 agree to come together and make a real dramatic impact in this area, then we will fund those programs for you. So we try to not just pick out one charity and you know, but we try to address the whole problem and collaborate and bring charities that are duplicating their efforts together through our funding to make impact. So, and we have those in all different areas. We have them in homelessness. We really don't address the homeless problem as much as we try to address the family who is just about to get on the street. We want to help those people to keep them off the street before they get there. And of course we do have programs to address when they get on as well, but we're really trying to make the impact in keeping people from ever ending up in that situation. Exactly. But we have those examples in all of our impact areas.
Major?
Our approach is to try to be holistic in terms of meeting people's needs, you know, body, mind, soul, and spirit, and also to try to do a continuum of services. Now, there's lots of things that we do that are kind of one and done. People come to us for a bag of food, we'll provide that. We'll give out 45,000 toys this Christmas season to needy children and so forth. But we also have more sophisticated programs where people have, say, deep addiction issues and so forth. And so we'll take them off the street, and we'll put them in a long-term rehab program, transitional living, and then help give them the skills they need to be productive in life. It's a long process, it's an expensive process, but in the end it turns out to be the most effective. We have one program where over 90% of our graduates are still clean and sober after 6 months of sobriety. And that's a pretty remarkable number. Well, that takes time, that takes money, and it takes a great deal of effort. But we're looking to transform people's lives. And again, I think the holistic approach is a key for us.
I think in any type of approach like that, when you're dealing with addiction, it's bolstering self-esteem, it's bolstering a person's spirituality in terms of giving that person, again, a sense of hope. I think that both of your organizations are dealing with people that, you know, because of their situation, whether it because of drug addiction or just the lack of employment or a combination of all of the above, get to the point in their life where they just have no sense of hope and everything becomes day to day and like a survival mode. So I think what you're talking about in terms of doing that holistic approach is very important.
Well, I think it is, because the root problem is often spiritual. Sometimes it's more than just physical, mental, relational, and so we think that the whole person needs to be addressed. And something like drug and alcohol addiction is just a devastating issue in our state, a devastating problem, because if it's not addressed with one generation, it just tends to kind of perpetuate itself to the next generation. And so that's why it's such a high priority for the Salvation Army, among many other things that we do.
You know, I saw in recent years they had some very effective ad campaigns for helping orphans and children in foreign countries, and I think it was Sally Struthers, the actress, would get on and say, you know, for only pennies a day you can feed this child. And I always thought that that was such an effective way because it didn't seem like a lot of money, and you actually, you know, could put a name and a face to something that you were giving to. Is that something that you organizations like yourselves would look at doing in terms of different ways of getting people to really, because it's like I said, you know, although you can give to specific organizations, you know, we hear things, and I want to get into this a little bit too about what the administrative costs of running this, and there are some administrative costs. I mean, frankly, people have to make a living that work for Aloha United Way and for Salvation Army. There are always going to be administrative costs, but I think people really want to see those dollars going to something, and they want to feel good about that. You know, there's a certain amount of gratification to giving and then seeing something
Right.
built or seeing a child actually helped.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up the Sally Struthers thing, because I think what I'd really like for people to start thinking as you talk about giving locally and supporting locally is that there's that much need on every single corner in our own state right there. I mean, it's not, and I'm not just talking about the homeless people that you see in the tents, but I'm talking about, we have literally over 10,000 seniors in our state that are living on a few $1,000s a year. You go to watch the food drops from the food bank in some of the neighborhoods, and what you see are the grandparents very nicely dressed with their food carts waiting in line for their food drop. I mean, the economy has really hit some people very, very hard, and these are not the face of the people that you say are slackers or didn't try hard enough. This is the everyday person that never really thought they were going to end up in this situation. So our approach this year in our campaigns with United Way, and we'll continue with this next year, is that United Way will be the safety net that will be there if you need one of these services too. If a gift to us, and if you can do something as small as $5 or $10 a paycheck, will quadruple our giving effort in the community, and it will also allow us to help ensure that the charities you need will be there when you need them too. So we do sort of take that just for a few dollars approach, and we try to make it pertinent to everybody on an individual basis. So,
Major?
Well, I just say amen to what Kim has said. So many people are just really on the edge of being in need. And one thing the Salvation Army does, and the organizations that we partner with in the United Way, is to try to help people from going over the edge, providing preventative services, basic services when they're in crisis. And I think that that isn't always an expensive thing, but people need to have the services available in order to take advantage of them. And that's what we want to do with the Salvation Army and other organizations.
Have you found that when, well, you both mentioned that your cuts have been way back on in terms of funding that you're getting from the government, but have you found that at times when that funding is available or was available, that there were any kind of strings attached to it, in the sense that, you know, we're going to give you money, but we really want you to focus on this, you know?
We generally don't rely on government funding at United Way. It's something we'd love to have if it was out there, but we've tended to rely on the personal donor, you know, in the workplace. Sure. But it's a different situation for a national organization.
You know, actually, in the United States, government funding accounts for less than 5% of the Salvation Army's budget. However, in Hawaii, we've had several large institutions that have evolved over the last 30 or 40 years, and so it's a much higher percentage now. But we're still heavily reliant on individual donors and legacies and estates and so forth, and you know, always looking for new sources of income. One of the exciting things we're working on right now is the Ray and Joan Kroc Community Center in Kapolei. Mrs. Kroc, who was the heir to Ray Kroc's fortune from McDonald's, gave a very significant gift to the Salvation Army. And we're finishing up a construction project now that'll include about 200,000 square feet of indoor and outdoor space that'll be available to families on the west side of Oahu and indeed the whole island. And so there's new opportunities even in difficult circumstances that you know, give us the opportunity to reach out to new constituencies.
How have you folks found the relationship with our new governor, and now he has a new homeless task force coordinator, Mark Anthony?
Mark Alexander.
Mark Alexander. Mark Anthony, I don't know where that came from. Mark Alexander, has that been a successful tool for you folks in terms of having him as an interface in dealing with some of those specific issues with homelessness?
Well, he did come and speak to us shortly after taking on that role and talk to us about some of the programs we were funding to make sure there wasn't a duplication of effort from the state and us, and has extended, you know, the olive branch to saying let's work together in the best way that we can. Beyond that, we haven't had too much communication with him yet.
Okay.
I've generally been very encouraged by the kinds of things that the state is trying to do, and you know, Governor Abercrombie and certainly Mayor Carlisle have been tremendous supporters to the Salvation Army, and we want to do all that we can to partner with them to try to solve problems in the state and in the city of Honolulu.
Well, I know that during the APEC, you know, there was a lot of concern about what was going to happen with the homeless and what we were going to do with them, and it was a big concern of mine. I also volunteer as part of the task force member of homelessness for the Roman Catholic Church here in Hawaii, so I was very familiar with Mark when he was a priest, and have met with him subsequently after he left and now is working for the governor. But it was a concern, I think, for a lot of organizations, and I'm sure this was a concern too for Salvation Army, that the homeless were going to start being warehoused somewhere, to get them out of the way,
Yeah, it was an issue that I took up with Mark in a couple of contexts, and I think that his message, and I agree with it, is that the most important thing that we can do for the homeless is try to get them into long-term housing. I mean, it seems so obvious, and I think that really is the priority of the state, and I think that is in the best interest of those that are homeless. So the Salvation Army kind of embraces that idea. We certainly don't want to see the homeless kind of pushed and shoved around, and I don't think that's been the case. But I think it's important that we try to work together to do it in the best interest of the homeless in the long term, and that's to provide affordable housing that leads to stability.
Well, folks, this is just 2 organizations that we have here in Hawaii. There are many others, but we picked these 2 to feature on our holiday edition because they do represent such a wide variety of different kinds of services, as well as them both being statewide. And so for the audience on Maui, these organizations obviously are present there, and you can get involved by going to the websites and really getting involved this session. I want to thank both of you,
thank you,
for everything that you folks do in terms of helping our community and really stepping up to the plate and really trying to help people in our community. It's just phenomenal that the effort and the time that you put into this to make it work for so many people.
Well, thank you for caring too. And I also just really quickly want to say, if there's someone out there who needs help, you can call our 211 information line, and we can also link you with a charity that can help you if you're in need this season too.
Terrific. And the
Thank
same.
you very much. Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you.
Well, folks, it's been another great edition of the Fontaine Factor. I want to thank all of you for watching this evening, and I hope all of you have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you for watching.